Welcome. We are talking Heroic Disgrace with the author Scott Box, and it's time to man up. What are we doing? We're doing subsection man up. So
it's in the fear section, so fear is still involved, but yeah, man.
Did we just lose our female audience? I hope not, because we're going to talk about what men need to do, right?
Yeah, no, the women will, they want the men in their lives to man up. So
that's a topic. Yeah. I love that topic. No. Yes. Women
want
their men to be men.
I think what's important about this, excuse me, this subject is that for me, and this is kind of where I guess I'm going to give the end away before we get there.
Wait, of the whole book?
No, no, okay. Of the man up section, but that I was trying to man up in a way that I thought Carrie Ann needed me to man up.
Who's
or
Carrie
wanted
Ann?
Me to. So Carrie Ann is my wife.
Okay.
And that's a really good point.
I already knew that. It was for you guys.
That's a really good point. And a lot of it had to do with this wrestling match that I was having with myself, just to prove I wasn't a fraud.
So to win her over, the beginning, like when you guys first meet or whatever, you had to, like, you realized you liked her or whatever, you were attracted to her and all that.
Oh, heck yeah.
And then you decided, like, wow, if I'm going to win her heart, I've got to, like, be this guy that she's going to want.
Yeah.
And so what happened? How'd that fold? Like,
so yeah, the story's in the book. I don't need to share the whole thing, but I knew that, for instance, for the type of girl that I was going to be attracted to, I knew that more than likely my guitar playing and singing would help me.
That's all it is. Woo her. Nice.
I knew.
Did you sing a romantic song to her and look into her eyes?
I mean, that happened.
It worked. That's all you needed, right? That's all it took.
I don't know how much of that actually matters, and it's kind of embarrassing.
It's a little bit. It's a little. She loved that.
Ah, man.
But then she needs more. She needs more out of you as a leader, out of your spiritual guidance as, is this a guy I can follow?
Can I just step back for a second?
Oh, no. Here we go.
No, I wasn't that guy that's like singing lullabies.
You were. Yes,
no, I wasn't, man. That is not me.
I have a video.
That is.
You want to show it? Here we go. We're not gonna.
You're such a liar. That wasn't me. Okay. But what I knew was that I loved leading music, and I liked calling people in to sing with me. Yeah. So there was that leadership aspect that was a part of my life that I enjoyed, and I knew more than likely that would be something that would be attractive to a female that I would be attracted to.
Right.
Put it that way.
Right.
I don't know how to say that best.
No, we get it, yeah.
But yes, I did at one point, I know one or two times early on, took my guitar on a date and sang her a little worship song or something. And,
nice.
And yeah.
I mean, does it have to be worship? Like, I'm just gonna humble brag. Like, I could pick up a guitar right now with all three fingers and jam on something, and my wife just falls in love again. Like, come on. I mean, I could just do that right now. And I can make it up. I can freestyle
That's
it.
awesome.
My wife loves it. I don't do it enough. Okay, I do need to do it more. But
freestyle.
I mean, I don't even care. Give me an out-of-tune guitar. I will write something real quick.
No, I've seen you actually do it. I've
just
actually seen you
We
pull
need
this
to do
off.
this as men, right? I mean, our women love this kind of stuff, and we forget about it because we're not these romantic kind of guys all the time. But it didn't even have to be a worship song. You could just jam, and Carrie Ann was like, "Oh, this guy."
You know why I think you're right, actually, is that I see it in my daughter too, where I'm not seeing like the "ooh, you're so lovely." It's that there is something that she appreciates about the man in her life at this point. You know, singing and playing guitar. Right. There is something more to that's attractive to the females in my life.
Yeah.
And I would think from my experience, many females as well.
Right.
So
you decide, and I know I'm just going to cut into the chase here. You decide like, hey, I've already got her with my guitar and singing skills, but at some point, if I'm going to ask her to be my wife, I'm going to have to prove a lot more to her.
Yeah.
But that started some inner turmoil in you.
Yeah, it did. Boy.
We all feel this way, like we're not good enough, but we're going to get to the next level of this, of is she going to find out I'm a fraud? Yeah. And that everything I'm doing around her and being around her is maybe not who I really am or what I would do by myself.
Right. Yeah, so the idea with this that really, really was tough and probably I should just stay on the early dating type
absolutely.
of thing. But and the I set a precedent
Right.
that ultimately I couldn't maintain, or I chose not to maintain.
So like you opened the doors in the beginning, but now you don't?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, that's
like that. Nice.
but part of
Step your game up, dude. Come on, man up. Open
yeah,
the
well,
doors.
I actually don't feel bad about it. My wife is fully capable of opening her own door, and it just is at this point in our relationship a freaking waste of time. Like that's kind of the way we both think. I could be wrong.
No, we
but
both
I'm
don't think
fairly
that.
certain. I'm fairly certain
my
Carrie
gosh.
Ann does. Carrie Ann's not a flower person.
Here's what
either.
she would say, though. She would say, it would be nice every once in a while if you'd open a door.
And
for me.
I do every once in a while.
But we're not talking that. Go back.
I'm not defending myself. I'm simply
Yeah.
saying that there was a moment in time when I realized I don't think I can keep doing this, or I maybe set the bar too.
Like this woman deserves this,
and I can't
I'm
give
really
her,
this, but
and
I'm puffing it up.
I'm a total fraud.
Yeah.
because I can't maintain what I did.
What
and
that caused inside of you.
Well, it totally made me feel like a failure, and again coming back into my mindset, which I contend is probably more natural than most of us realize, but is that failure actually leads to villainy. Is that thought that if you're not the winner,
You're a bad guy
You're not
now.
a hero.
Right.
Yeah, if you're the loser, you are a bad guy,
Right.
which means you're a villain. And that villainy was setting me way back on my heels, where I was so not confident in my ability to be a man anymore. Like I can't. So I won her. Oh, good for me.
Right.
She's my prize. Yay. But can I keep winning her? Should I keep winning her? Of course I should.
And how long did you have to keep this up, do you think? Oh, forever?
Yeah, it
50
was
years, 60 years?
this
80
idea
years?
of like, I'm handcuffed to my, which is so dumb. And I don't know if I'm coming across the way that I want to,
No, we
but
get
there
you.
was a fear that was driving me to be at this place of, I'm a fraud, and maybe actually I'm a villain because I'm not able to follow through on what I told her I would, what I promised I would, basically.
So you felt some chaos, and obviously Heroic Disgrace talks about the order out of chaos.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're feeling chaos at this point, and you're just going, oh man. What
Chaos is
happens
a good-
when we have? What
that's a good
happens
word.
when she does say yes, and then what happens when we live together, and then what happens when we have a kid, and then I'm gonna have to be this guy that like constantly. Now, was it a lie, or were you just naturally this guy, or did you? Like, let's say there's superhero Scott, and then there's like want to just be left alone and do my own thing, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we already talked about the video game playing situation
Yeah.
and buying the Xbox.
Right.
That was your villain moment.
Yeah.
But like, what did you have to do on the daily to like put on this front, or was it just that you already were this guy and you just could be yourself?
Right.
What did it take to get to that moment?
Yeah. I think there was a distinction in time when, and just to be clear for what and how this happened, was there was dating Scott and pre-marriage Scott, and then there's post-marriage Scott.
Okay.
And the Scott that Carrie Ann got early, pre-marriage, and up until the wedding was, with maybe limited exception, a dude that was absolutely determined to show her his love, my love, in a way that was incredibly tangible, whatever she needed.
Right.
Post-marriage, something happened in me that, and it was immediate, and we'll get to that here, but it was like within hours of I do, that fear drove me someplace dark. There was post-marriage Scott, who all of a sudden was like, oh, this is the real world. I'm a real man now.
But what changed really?
And
We just talked about no fantasy. And when you're going
Right.
through a panic attack or anxiety, it's not a fake thing. This sounds like a fake thing. I'm just going to say what happened? What was real?
Yeah.
What made this change?
I mean, from a physical standpoint, we'd never had sex. And so
Which
that
I
was about to
applaud you, by the
change.
way. I applaud you. So that was stressful.
That was very much about to
Stressful.
change. And
Right.
well, and maybe there was stress involved in that.
You
but
think maybe I'm doing it wrong?
Really, well, totally.
Right. And now she's going to deal with this forever.
So there's that.
Right.
There's the whole and this is an interesting one, but when I had asked Carrie Ann's dad if I could marry her, and we're sitting across the table from each other, he kind of leans on his elbows and Gene looks at me in the eyes and he goes, "Yes, but don't take her out of the state." And I'm like, "Okay,
Wow.
done. Okay, I won't take her out of the state." First thing I do, right after we get married, within 3 months, we moved to Washington out of Oregon.
What?
For a church thing. Well, it was an opportunity.
But did you talk to him about it, obviously?
No, I didn't talk to him about it. It was a thing. Now, is that my right as her husband? Sure, I didn't have to make, a follow through, but I was already back on my heels. By the time we were married, we had made a commitment that I was taking her out of state. So there were things where I was like, oh, I'm already
You're digging your own hole.
already screwed.
Yeah. So, okay, that could cause everyone in the world. That's caused our audience anxiety. I'm with you on that. I feel it right now. I didn't know this story. So now I'm like, oh, good.
That's not in the book either. That's
failing.
for free.
Scott failed on day one.
I
Okay.
failed on day one.
Like, hey, can I marry her? Yeah. If you don't do this thing. Good. All right. Thanks. Doing that thing. All right. How,
It was that quick.
So
Yeah.
I can understand 100% now how Heroic Disgrace talks about too broken to be a hero, okay, too sinful to be a worshiper, too fearful to be hopeful. I can go on. You literally probably had this fear on you of, I just let down my father-in-law. I started with that.
I started with
And
that.
so then that caused more turmoil inside of you.
Well, and think of it this way too. The reason why we left wasn't for just some job. I was leaving to be a worship pastor and a youth pastor.
Right.
So there was that's not like pat on the back. That's like
More stress.
it was my thought was, well, he has to understand, right? And yet there was this conflict of, well, does Carrie Ann understand? Do I even understand? What am I doing?
Right.
And because not only that, Carrie Ann needed to finish her education in Seattle because she was a year behind me.
Right.
So she had to
So she
go
was
to a
already out of
community
state.
college. I pulled her out. It was
Maybe he meant Washington. You just can't take her out of Washington.
nope. He didn't mean that.
Oh, so now the audience wants to know. Everyone, thank you for wondering with me. Do you guys talk about this? Like, did you ever clear the air with Gene? How'd this
Actually,
go?
I think maybe kind of years later.
How'd that go?
No, I don't know if we
Let's get Gene on the line.
Yeah, get him on, call him up. No, it's actually it's come up. We've made jokes about it.
Right.
But
okay, let's say
I never
2 months after you
apologized.
moved. But 2 months after you moved, how did you guys talk? And how was his interaction toward you guys?
So funny thing was that they came for a Thanksgiving, and sure enough, and this was great because we had a water leak in the house, and it put him in his element where he was like, "Oh, cool, Mr. Fix It came through."
He manned up.
He manned up.
Whether he was happy with you or not.
No, he manned up, and
Nice.
he was what a stud who's loved me through that. That is a man. That's a man who manned up because he loved me through it because his daughter loved me first.
Yeah, that's a good story. It's got some meat on it right here. So, okay. So, I mean, do you have a final thought on this? I mean, we got to end at some point. We could keep talking about your failures all day.
Yeah. Well, this
I
is
love
why
this.
I hope it's clear. My final thought is this. I hope it's clear that there was a reason why I titled this work what I titled it. Is that I grew up believing I was a thing, heroic.
Right.
I realized that heroism was not a thing I could achieve, which meant I was disgraceful.
Yeah.
Or disgrace.
To yourself.
Yeah, and maybe to people that mattered to me too, like my parents or Carrie Ann's parents. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
But then ultimately I realized, and this is part of the journey that we're heading toward, is that the disgrace on one hand that I experienced was this thing, but the disgrace that Jesus modeled was this completely different thing that opened my eyes to not only what people assumed was disgraceful in his life, like dying on a cross and
Being weak,
serving people
not
and not
arguing,
being served,
not arguing your case.
That was so disgraceful to that ancient world.
Yeah.
And yet it was also the thing that then brought clarity to the heroism component to this. It's like, that's actually what a real hero is. Guess what? If it's about heroism and disgracefulness, that's the type of heroic disgrace I can be.
Right.
It's the Jesus kind, but it can't be the Scott Box kind. And if I put it in this shell or in this realm of manning up and being something for somebody that I thought I was supposed to be, I will always fail. I will always feel like a fraud. And that's the way that we end up spinning our wheels for an entire lifetime and never live a life of actual true purpose and meaning.
Absolutely.
And we weren't designed for that.
We have to break that cycle.
God divinely designed us for a heroic, even a disgraceful purpose.
Right.
But we have to understand the definition of the way that Jesus defines it and models it.
Absolutely. So if you've hung out with us long enough to find out how Scott alienated his father-in-law and his whole family, I'm just kidding, then check out more. Look us up on all social media platforms. Heroic Disgrace, Worship Hero Project. What else? Amazon. Find us on Amazon. Find the book on Amazon. And just full of great stuff. This is all behind the book, obviously. So this paired with the book, oh man, God's got some great things for your life. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.